there's only 2 levels of effort I can measure, right? Lisa's over here. She's not doing anything right now, so what's her intensity level? 0, right, yeah. I can measure that. Lisa's not lifting weight, so she's at 0 right now. But this young man here, what's your name, sir? Alan. Alan is over here working super hard, cannot even lift that 6th repetition up off the ground. He's absolute toast. He sets it down. What's his intensity level? 100%. If he's going to what we describe as muscle failure. Muscle failure is where you're unable to do the last repetition. Now, this sounds scary. It's like, holy cow, this guy's nuts. What's he talking about? Muscle failure is and can be very safe. We do it all the time with clients, and our average client is in their mid-60s. So it's not something that's dangerous. You just have to know how to arrive there safely. But the only 2 things we can measure are 100% and 0. Everything else in between is just someone's opinion about where they're at. We really can't measure it. And so we look at the science on productive intensity of effort for strength workouts. What the consensus is across the board here is that we need to train at a high level of effort, and the best way to do it is to reach that muscle failure. If you think, go ahead.
If you're doing, let's say, you're on your 12th rep, and you're like, God, I may be able to do 4 more, but I can't. That's not 100%.
That's exactly right. I was just going to say that. That's a great example. Great example. If that 10th or 11th, whatever it is, if that rep is murder and you say, oh my goodness, there's no way I'm going to be able to get a 12th rep, you have to at least attempt it. If you get this far, that's failure. We can't fail on the way down. We can't fail on a concentric muscle contraction. It has to be eccentric, so it has to be going up. Or concentric, I'm sorry. It has to be going up, not down. So you guys, you have to attempt the rep. If you get a 1/3, a 1/4, an 1/8, a 10th, 3/4, and you don't get the full rep, that's muscle failure. You've drawn the line in the sand. That's a significant stimulus to the muscle. What does it do with that stress, by the way? If you stress the muscle like that, what does it do in response to that? It adapts, right? It adapts. It's threatened. That stress is a threat to your muscular system. It's a threat for its survival. So it adapts. New proteins are laid down. Muscles become thicker, stronger, more dense, more metabolically active. All kinds of adaptive changes occur that are good for our health and our function and our running speed too. But so what we're doing is we're literally threatening our muscles, our muscular system. So you want to go to that point of muscle failure. Now, if you have to go from 0 to 100 here, you don't. If you've never been strength trained before, you can build up to this process. But that is the ideal threshold. Safely, efficiently getting to that muscle failure, because it is a significant, measurable, meaningful stress to the muscular system that it then adapts to. We call this overload. Question?
How often are you training to failure? Because, I mean, there's a psychological effect to that, too.
There is, yeah.
Not to mention the recovery effect.
There's the mental side, yeah.
With somebody who's running.
That's
so
right.
How often do you train to failure?
It's a great question. Hold that question. We're going to get to that. That's a really good question. The mental side of it, that's exactly right, yeah. We need to balance that out. That's right. So first thing we said, full body workouts, right? Okay, makes sense. Don't strength train 6 days a week. Even I don't have time for that, and I own the studio, so don't do that 6 days a week. You'll never be able to run. And then when you do strength train, work hard. Work hard. If you can get to failure, great. If you can't get to failure, if you don't have, we call it mental strength, if you don't have the fortitude to get to that point where you can't lift the last rep, get as close as you can. Closer is better. So it doesn't have to be an all or nothing undertaking here.
What do you do about lactic acid buildup?
You celebrate it.
Yeah, but you're not failing. You're just you just got all this lactic.
That's not what's stopping the muscles from contracting. You want volitional fatigue. And so there's all kinds of theories about why muscles stop contracting. It can be concentration of hydrogen ions and interrupting glycolysis and so on. Some of it is linked to the discomfort, but you can fail without the muscles burning. So if you depend on the volume of the repetitions. So yes, I can fail at 2 reps or I can fail at 22 reps. 22 is exponentially more painful than 2. And I tell my clients this all the time, I'd much rather fail sooner versus later. In my workout, I'm doing about 1:20 to muscle failure. So for what we do, that can be 4 to 8 repetitions. But I'd much rather do 4 to 8 than 20 reps, because every single rep after a certain threshold is more painful and more painful and more. It is just a complete beatdown mentally to get through it. So I'd say train at the volume that you can tolerate, really, is what it comes down to. And we vary from client to client, but lactic acid isn't the sort of the single barrier in terms of muscle contraction. So what you really have to do when you think about that discomfort that is associated with it, you just have to deal with it.
Okay, so if you do so many reps at a certain with a certain amount of weight and you fail, should you lighten the weight and then continue again until you fail and keep doing that until the weight is reduced?
Yeah.
Or just stop
Yeah.
with the first amount of weight?
You stop on the first one, yeah.
Okay.
So that's a great question. What's your name, sir?
Rob?
Great question, Rob. So that's our next point. So we've said train the full body, right? It just makes sense logically. Train to failure because it is the only measurable level of intensity that we have. And if we look at the evidence, people do better every single time when we train to failure. You just got to get there safely. You can't injure yourself in the process. And then this whole issue of, well, I guess that's a spin-off, Rob, so let's address that for a second. So Rob wants to answer that age-old question, then do I do a second set, a third set, a fourth set? So the answer is no, you don't need to. Kahneman's size principle of motor unit recruitment says, and this was a physiologist back in the 60s discovered, that muscle fiber recruitment is sequential. So if I'm doing a bicep curl, you basically have two kinds of muscle fibers, right? Fast and slow twitch, and then different subtypes of muscle fibers. But the two big classes are fast and slow twitch. So if I start doing a bicep curl, and let's just say I'm doing maybe 3 or 4 seconds up and down,